Tell them you slipped, Lauren, or I'll make sure you don't get up next time. I heard it in the ER while my husband, Ethan, gripped my hand like a warning. His mother, Margaret, stood there in pearls, practicing a worried face for the nurses. 12 hours earlier, she'd shoved me down our hardwood stairs. 3 cracked ribs, a sprained wrist, bruises everywhere. Ethan kept smiling and repeating her version. She's clumsy. It was an accident. Have you ever watched someone rewrite your pain in real time and realize they're all in on it? Stay with me. Because the security footage was worse than pain. And if you want the moment the truth finally hits back, tap like, comment, and subscribe. The ER smelled like antiseptic and fear. Every breath stabbed my ribs. I stared at the ceiling tiles while my husband, Ethan, squeezed my hand too tight, like he was holding me in place. Just say you tripped, Lauren, he whispered. Please. His mother, Margaret, hovered at my bedside in pearls, wearing a practiced, worried face. She's always been clumsy, she told the staff. Then she leaned closer, voice syrupy. Tell them you slipped. We don't want to make this dramatic. A nurse stepped between them and me. Her badge read, Nina Rivera. Hospital policy, she said. I need to examine the patient privately. Ethan bristled. I'm her husband. And I'm her nurse, Nina replied. Please wait outside. Margaret smiled, but as the door closed, she brushed my shoulder and whispered, Remember what happens to wives who cause trouble. Nina pulled the curtain and lowered her voice. Lauren, I need you to be honest. These injuries can happen in a fall, but they also fit someone being pushed. Did someone push you? I pictured the stairs. Margaret appearing unannounced again, using the key Ethan gave her without asking me. I'd been carrying laundry when she blocked the landing and hissed, You're just the replacement. His first wife knew her place. Then her hands hit my shoulders. Not a slip. A shove. My throat went dry. I have proof, I whispered. Nina's eyebrows lifted. What kind of proof? Cameras. My wrist screamed as I reached for my phone. I installed indoor cameras because things kept disappearing, and everyone said I was forgetful. Nina held out her hand gently. May I? I nodded and opened the app with shaking fingers. The video loaded. Me climbing the stairs, Margaret stepping into frame, her face twisting into something ugly. Then the push, the tumble. Watching it made my stomach roll. But the worst part wasn't the fall. It was what came after. Margaret stood at the top of the stairs and watched me lie there, not calling for help, not running down, just watching. Like she was checking whether the job was done. Then she walked down slowly, stepped around my body, and went into my kitchen. She made herself tea. Nina made a strangled sound. Oh my God. On the timestamp, minutes crawled. 10, 12, 15. Only then did Margaret pick up her phone. Only then did she perform the concerned mother-in-law act for the camera, touching my cheek like she loved me. I felt something in me harden. Ethan's favorite line was always, Mom means well. But cameras don't gaslight you. All those nights I searched drawers for missing earrings. All those times Margaret smiled and Ethan shrugged, suddenly replayed in my head. I wasn't forgetful. I wasn't unstable. I was being trained to doubt myself. Seeing it on screen felt like grief and relief at the same time, and pure rage, too. Nina set my phone down. I'm calling the police, she said. This is serious. Panic flickered through me. Ethan won't believe me, I admitted. He never does. Nina's gaze didn't waver. He doesn't get to choose what's true. She stepped out, and through the door, I heard Margaret already spinning the next lie. Ethan, darling, she's unstable. Those cameras, that paranoia. She needs therapy. And Ethan answered, I know, Mom. Once she heals, we'll get her the help she needs. That sentence hurt worse than my ribs, because it proved he wasn't confused. He was committed to her story. Minutes later, Nina returned with 2 officers. Ethan looked angry, at me, not at her. Nina held up my phone. We have video, she said. Lauren wants to make a statement. My hands shook, but my voice came out steady. Yes, I said. I want to press charges. Margaret's voice rose, sharp and shrill, the instant she realized consequences had arrived. Ethan stared at the screen as the footage replayed, his face drained of color, like he couldn't find a lie big enough. So let me ask you, if you had proof in your hand and everyone still wanted you to stay quiet, would you speak up anyway? If you're still here, tap like and drop a comment because what the police found next made my blood run cold. After I gave my statement, everything blurred into paperwork and pain meds. The hospital released me with orders to rest, but rest felt impossible when my own home didn't feel safe. Ethan begged me to come back. "We can fix this," he texted. "Mom didn't mean it like that." So I went to my sister Megan's house instead. Megan took one look at the bruises up my neck and went cold with anger. "He gave her a key without asking you," she said. "And he's defended her for years. This isn't new. This is just finally visible." A week later, Detective Harper sat at Megan's kitchen table and slid photos toward me. "We executed a search warrant at Margaret Collins' house," and she said, "Do you recognize these?" My stomach dropped. There were my missing possessions laid out like trophies. My grandmother's sapphire necklace, my mom's pearl earrings, the bracelet Ethan swore I'd lost, even the engagement ring from my first fiancé, an item I searched for until I cried myself sick. "She took them," I whispered. Detective Harper nodded, and she kept them. Then she slid one more photo across. Margaret's phone opened to a text thread with Ethan from 3 months earlier. "Lauren's becoming a problem," Margaret had written. "She's not good enough for you. Remember Samantha? She knew her place. We need to do something about this one." My hands shook so hard Megan had to steady the mug in front of me. "Samantha?" "Your husband's first wife," Detective Harper said. "We contacted her. She's willing to testify. She says Margaret pushed her down the same stairs too." That's when the story Ethan always told me snapped in half. He said Samantha was unstable. He said she left for no reason. He said the fall was just an accident. 2 wives, same stairs, same mother-in-law. One ugly question lodged in my throat. Did Ethan know? He answered it that evening when he showed up at Megan's door. He looked wrecked, unshaven, eyes red. "Lauren, please," he said. "She's my mom. She needs help, not jail. If you drop the charges—" "Did you know?" I cut in. He blinked. "Know what?" "About Samantha," I said. "About your mother texting you that I'm a problem, and that you needed to do something." His silence lasted 1 second too long. My voice stayed steady. "They found my jewelry, Ethan. Everything Margaret stole. All the times you told me I was careless." He shook his head fast. "I didn't think she'd actually hurt you." "That's not an answer," I said. "That's an excuse." He reached toward me. "Please come home." "Home?" I laughed, sharp and tired. "The house where your mother has a key? The house with the stairs she used like a weapon? You let her in. You watched her belittle me. And when I begged you to listen, you told me I needed therapy." Megan opened the door behind me, just enough to make it clear I wasn't alone. Ethan's shoulders sank like witnesses made him smaller. I pulled an envelope from my pocket, papers my lawyer had drafted that morning. "I'm pressing charges for attempted murder and theft," I said, "and I'm filing for divorce." His face drained. "You can't." "I can," I said, "and I am." He started to speak, but I held up my phone. "The cameras proved I'm not paranoid. The texts prove this wasn't random. And Samantha's testimony proves your mother has done this before." Ethan's eyes filled, but it didn't move me. Tears don't erase choices. He whispered, "I'll lose everything." I leaned in, voice low. "You should have thought about that when you chose your mother over my safety. Twice." Detective Harper later told me they'd found Margaret's diary, pages of plans and petty punishments, even notes about getting rid of Samantha and me. And Ethan's replies, little nods, little approvals, were saved too. The law calls that enabling. I called it betrayal, the kind you don't heal from. So tell me, if someone loves you but protects the person hurting you, what do you call that? Drop it in the comments. And hit like if you're still with me, because the next chapter is where the whole family illusion finally collapsed. 6 months after the ER, I walked into a courtroom with healed ribs and a nervous system that still jumped at sudden sounds. Margaret sat at the defense table, posture perfect. Ethan sat behind her, eyes fixed on the floor. Across the aisle was Samantha, Ethan's first wife. We'd met during the investigation, two women connected by the same staircase and the same lie. The prosecutor played my security footage on a large screen. The moment Margaret's hands slammed into my shoulders, a murmur moved through the room. Then came the part where she watched me at the bottom of the stairs, also, and made tea. Her attorney tried confusion and shock. Margaret dabbed at dry eyes. But the timestamp didn't care. 15 minutes of waiting doesn't happen by accident. Next came what the search warrant uncovered. My stolen jewelry and Margaret's diary. Neat handwriting, pages of complaints, lists of things she took, and lines that turned my stomach. Notes about how to remove a wife who wouldn't stay obedient. Then Samantha took the stand. She looked at the jury and said, "She told me I was temporary. She said I'd never be good enough. One day, after months of it, she pushed me down those same stairs." Samantha's hands trembled, but she kept going. When I tried to tell Ethan, he said I was confused from the fall. I realized he would never protect me, so I left. I glanced at Ethan. He flinched. For years, he'd called Samantha unstable to keep the story clean. Now her truth was on record. When it was my turn, I talked about the injuries, sure, but I also talked about the slow violence, the gaslighting, the missing necklace that became my fault. The way Margaret would say something vicious, then look at Ethan like a referee waiting for him to call me dramatic. And he always did. I admitted something I hated admitting. I started doubting my own memory. I started apologizing for things I didn't do just to end the tension. That's what constant invalidation does. It shrinks you until you're easier to control. If you're listening and thinking, that's just a nasty mother-in-law, wait, hear me. When someone isolates you, rewrites your reality, and then escalates to physical harm, it's not family drama. It's danger. The verdict came faster than I expected. Guilty, attempted murder and theft. And because Samantha testified, her case was reopened too. The judge sentenced Margaret to 15 years. When the words landed, her composure finally cracked. Not tears for me, tears for herself. As the bailiff led her away, she stared at me with the look that used to make me shrink. This time, it didn't work. Ethan didn't escape either. His texts, his do something replies, his pattern of protecting her became evidence. He lost his job, he got probation and mandatory counseling, and our divorce was finalized. After court, I sat in my car and just breathed, like my lungs finally belonged to me. I went home and unpacked every stolen piece, placing each one where I could see it. The sapphire necklace, the pearls, the ring I thought I'd lost forever. Each item wasn't just jewelry. It was proof I wasn't careless. I was being hunted inside my own marriage. And Ethan helped her by pretending it was love. I went home, not to the old version of my house, but to a space I rebuilt on purpose. I replaced the stairs as a statement. This is mine now. I kept the cameras too, not to live paranoid, but to refuse denial. Samantha and I started meeting for coffee. At first it was awkward. Then it became steady. An unexpected friendship built on truth. We laughed about tiny rebellions and cried about the bigger thing, how both of us were told our instincts were crazy. A local support group asked us to speak at their first meeting. That's when I realized something. Margaret didn't just try to silence me, she accidentally made me louder. So I have to ask you, if you saw a friend being slowly erased by family, would you recognize it in time? Share this with someone who needs it and drop a comment. What would you have done in my place? Today, when I walk past those new stairs, I don't feel fear. I feel clarity. I learned the hard way that keeping the peace can be a trap, especially when peace really means silence. Margaret didn't just hurt me with her hands, she tried to erase me with a story. And Ethan helped, not by pushing me, but by dismissing me, doubting me, and choosing his mother's comfort over my safety. If you're listening and your gut keeps whispering something's wrong, please don't wait for bruises to prove it. Document. Tell someone. Protect your money, your space, your sanity. The moment I stopped begging to be believed and started believing myself, everything changed. Samantha and I still meet for coffee. Some days we laugh, some days we shake, but we're alive and we're finally heard. Next week, I'm speaking at a support group and I'm scared. But if my voice helps one woman leave sooner, it's worth it. So here's my question. If someone tries to call you crazy just to keep you quiet, will you stay quiet? If this story hit you, comment and share it with someone who needs a wake up call. And seriously, am I in the wrong?